You know, as much as I have distanced myself from all things Disney in the last few years, so I know it's been a while, I don't remember Snow White being a hostile, venomous hag who went around wishing harm on people. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. I appreciate you being here, whether this is the first time you have clicked on one of my videos or you are a returning supporter. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up button, make sure that you are subscribed, and make sure that your notifications are turned on so that you never miss out on a conversation like the one we're about to have. So an area of liberal meltdown that we haven't touched on yet is how the Hollywood elite are handling the news that their pro-abortion faux woman's advocate candidate lost to the big orange man. Of course, like always, they threaten to leave the US if they don't get their way, but unfortunately for us, they never actually follow through. And year after year, they stick around to tell us it's our job to vote for whoever they deem morally superior because they're such stellar examples of morality and setting an example of what our priorities should be. That is, if our priorities were rampant drug use, child exploitation, broken homes, and then covering up our sadness with expensive clothing, houses, and cars, and then virtue signaling on social justice causes that we came across on an Instagram meme to make ourselves feel like we have a purpose in life because wealth and popularity hasn't filled the void created by living in a world where nobody actually cares about you as a person. And that virtue signaling is no joke. But then again, when it's the only thing that makes you feel like you have any real meaning in life, you will grab onto it and you will run with it, hoping that this one thing will actually make everyone see that you have something genuine to offer society. So even if you have seen some of the tears that have been shed by the Hollywood crowd since Trump won, I guarantee their theatrics are always worth the rewatch. It's about the only entertainment that they put out there these days that's actually worth viewing, and it's free. So in case you missed it, Jimmy Fallon cried like a baby the day after the Trump win, reminding us all that at least one of the main reasons that men stick to the right side of the political aisle is that Democrats turn their men into sobbing babies who can't cope when they don't get their way. Have a look.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Let's go through this. Women and children will be safer without illegal immigrant gangs taking over our cities. Talk to me about science when you know what a woman is and what a baby is. Journalism is dead and has been dead for a long time. Justice has become political. You guys want to censor speech. The poor and the middle class have become significantly poorer in the last few years, and seniors can't afford to survive on the Social Security that they are receiving. Of course, it would be different if they identified as Ukrainians, and then they'd be rich. Based on all of the Kool-Aid that you've been drinking, Jimmy, it's actually a joke to hear you mention the words truth and decency. But as the caption to the side of this video says that you are a former comedian, I'm going to take this whole act as you trying to revive that career because there's no way to take you seriously. Moving on, we did get one promise by Eva Longoria saying that she and her family packed up to leave the dystopian US to live in Mexico and Spain. According to this post, it says Eva Longoria, who stumped for Kamala Harris, reveals she moved her family out of dystopian US. Actress Eva Longoria admitted that she and her family have fled the dystopian United States, leaving the homelessness and the high taxes of California for a brighter life in Mexico and Spain. Wow, doesn't that say something? I had my whole adult life here, Longoria told Marie Claire, but even before the pandemic, it was changing. The vibe was different. And then COVID happened and it pushed it over the edge. Whether it's the homelessness or the taxes, not that I want to poop on California, it just feels like this chapter in my life is done now. So she supposedly left to avoid living in the hellscape that 2/3 of the country just voted to keep from happening on a national level. Everything that has turned California into a poop hole would have become the national standard. And anyone with a speck of common sense could see that, which is why we said no. But it turns out Eva didn't want that either.
Eva Longoria is a complete fraud. If you read the Marie Claire article that she did, the interview that she did, she's been gone. She's been living outside of the United States for years. She admits that she's been splitting time between Spain in Mexico. So she already left. Also, the reasons that it gets worse, Laura, the reason she cites that she left California, COVID, taxes, and homelessness. So she didn't escape Donald Trump's dystopia. She escaped Gavin Newsom's and the left-wing dystopia. And even worse, Laura, she goes out there and she advocates for these progressive policies that are going to shove those policies down the rest of Americans' throats while she flees. So she's a fraud, and that's why you should listen to these Hollywood people.
She's an absolute joke, just like the rest of Hollywood, because she showed up in the country long enough to tell us to vote for the same things that she herself left. But these Hollywood meltdowns continue. One of the most notable recent outbursts by a celebrity who we already know has a very inflated view of herself came from none other than the one responsible for destroying the image of the fair and kind Snow White, Rachel Ziggler. She took to Instagram to share an unhinged rant against those who voted for Donald Trump, further solidifying the fact that their Snow White production will likely end up buried further in the trash bin than was already projected. She said, quote, "I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I do not want to live in. Leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in. Leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby she doesn't want. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful. Shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I am heartbroken for my friends who awoke fear this morning, and I am here with you to cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace." That is not very kind and fair of you, but I can give her credit for acknowledging that it is the left who has failed her. You know, it used to be that we watched movies based on the storytelling abilities of these people, and we didn't care what they thought and believed as an individual because there was this mutual respect that existed in the country that we were all entitled to our own views and opinions, as is the beauty of living in the US, and that we could still support each other even if we didn't agree. However, it's things like this that have made it important to get a sense for who someone is before choosing to support them. And I'm not talking about not going to see a movie or supporting a business or buying a product because someone voted differently than you or has different views or values than you do. I mean, most of Hollywood support has come from people who likely have very different views on things than they do, as they do live in a bubble that bolsters significantly different values and priorities than what the rest of the country believes in. I'm talking about people who actually share messages of wanting to harm others or wishing harm on others, because this actually makes you a despicable person, especially coming from people who constantly insist that speech is violence. They are the ones that primarily use their words to promote violence and harm against others, which is just one of the many reasons that more and more people are distancing themselves from the left and anyone who lives by these standards or lack thereof. But when it comes to Ziegler's post specifically, it really is ironic to see the iconic character known for her sweetness, service, kindness, and selflessness be portrayed by someone who is far more evil than the witch in the film who wants Snow White to cease to exist, because that's the message that Ziegler just put out there. Guys, I know I've said this before, but the programming runs deep in these people. As much as they try to tell us that they're all for inclusivity and diversity and compassion, and that we're the ones that are in a cult, they're the ones who want to eliminate anybody who disagrees with them and who have been lied to about people who vote differently being dangerous. And now they want to turn the entire country into one big echo chamber where we all think the same way and where dissent doesn't exist. And it doesn't get much more authoritarian or cult-ish than that. But I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Make sure that you are subscribed. I'm getting closer and closer to that 10,000 subscriber mark that I've been working towards for so long now, and I would appreciate your help in doing so. Please share this video with anybody that you think might find it interesting. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one.